Hey there, it's Jacques from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. So it's been a pretty interesting week for Standard. Obviously, this is the first week of the new Standard. Last weekend, we saw the first major tournament with the Star City Games Open, and a lot of the new cards obviously made an appearance. We saw a lot of old stuff, but that's to be expected from the first week. We did see some new brews, and we also saw some new cards having an effect on some old decks, which was good to see. Having said that, over the next few weeks, that environment will continue to be volatile due to the fact that we're going to see a lot of new stuff this week, and as we get closer to the Pro Tour, that's when things are going to get really exciting. Also, Modern Legacy, there's a lot going on in those two areas too, so let's jump in and take a look. We're going to begin with Standard, and what are the top 5 Standard cards that have lost value this week? Well, the trend continues that you're going to see a lot of cards here that have seen a lot of play previously, and maybe we'll see a little less play going forward. You're also going to notice at least 3 of these cards on the list are Dragons of Tarkir cards, as I think now players are starting to think about what decks they're going to play over the next season, and if those cards aren't in their decks, they're thinking about selling them since they will be leaving Standard this fall. Coming in at number 5 is Culligan's Command. This is down 84 cents to $8.94. Here we go with the Dragons of Tarkir card. This is a very, very good card. Keep an eye on this one. I think this will continue to drop when it gets closer to rotating out. And when it does, I would certainly pick up some copies of these. Make sure you have a play set. This is a card that will see play in Modern. Number 4 is Secure the Waste, down 85 cents to $5.48. Another card that's seen a lot of play, but again, it is a Dragons of Tarkir card. Number 3, Chandra Flamecaller, down 88 cents to $12.49. Now, Chandra has seen less play recently than she did back when she first premiered. However, she still did see a little bit of play last weekend, so keep an eye on this card. Probably will drop a little more if it doesn't find a real niche, though, going forward. Coming in number 2, Dragonlord Ojutai, down 96 cents to $7. Remember back when this card came out, this was a $30 card. It was extremely popular. Right now it just doesn't really have a home, and again, it's suffering from the fate of being a card that will be rotating out this fall. Coming in at number 1 is Gideon Ally of Zendikar, down $1.11 to $20.35. Now, Gideon is a card that a lot of folks speculated won't see as much play. I think that's true, although Gideon did see a fair amount of play still last weekend in the Star City Games Open, so keep an eye on this card. You also have to take into account a lot of packs of Battle for Zendikar were opened, so that alone is going to hurt the value of cards from that set and also for the Gatewatch. A lot more cards are printed today than they used to be, so you do have to keep that in mind too when it comes to picking up cards like this. I do think we'll see this become maybe a $15 card within the next couple months. Alright, let's look at the top 5 Standard cards that have gained value this week. So obviously some of these are going to be off the heels of what we saw last weekend in some of the tournaments. Coming in number 5 is Bygone Bishop, up 23 cents to $1.43. This is a card that was seeing play prior to the new Standard and will continue to see play going forward. The Spirits deck is actually a very popular deck and a fan favorite deck, it feels like. So no matter what happens, I think there's going to be copies of this deck hanging around regardless of how it performs. So keep an eye on this card. If you don't have play sets, they're still very affordable. I'd probably try to pick them up. Number 4 is Matter Reshaper, up 30 cents to $4.02. You could probably argue that this is a card that perhaps could be undervalued. This card has seen play in Standard. It saw play in Standard over the first weekend. It will continue to see play. And it is a card that's getting tons of play in Legacy in the Eldrazi deck, which is very popular right now. And at any time, this is a card that also could show up with some regularity in Modern, in my opinion. So this is one of those cards that if you don't have your play sets yet for $4, I probably would pick these up. Coming in number 3 is Prized Amalgam, up 42 cents to $2.54. I think it was a little bit of a surprise that we didn't see a zombie deck really perform in the Star City Games Open this past weekend. So some of the zombie cards that were gaining momentum kind of slowed down and went into a holding pattern. This one, though, is still going up, so keep an eye on the zombie archetype. If it becomes a thing over the next few weeks as we get closer to the Pro Tour, this card will spike. If it can't quite break into the metagame, however, then obviously this card will probably lose some ground. Coming in number 2 is Archangel Avacyn, up 91 cents to $20.93. Now this card has been dropping for quite some time, and I think it was just a little overvalued and overhyped back in the beginning. It's a fantastic card, but I think a lot of folks were still burned by Jace Vryn's Prodigy. Difference is this is a card that fits into a very particular style of deck, where back in its heyday, Jace Vryn's Prodigy could fit into any deck, and you kind of needed 4 of them. So it was a very different card, and it was up to about $40 at one point. Now, obviously, it's about half that, but still seeing play. Saw tons of play last weekend. It's going to continue to see play. So I do see Archangel Avacyn hanging around that $20, $25 mark probably for quite some time. Coming in number 1 is Rattle Chains, up $1.53 to $5.49. Like I mentioned earlier, the Spirit deck looked pretty good last weekend, even though Collected Company kind of took over the meta a little bit with Banned Company. But this deck still did very well. Rattle Chains is a core piece of it, and it's also a fantastic casual deck, regardless of whether you're trying to play competitively or not. So I do think this card will continue to go up in value. Again, if you don't yet have your play sets, probably a good idea to pick them up. All right, let's move on to Modern. We're going to look at the cards that lost value this week. For the most part, with maybe one exception, I think we're just seeing normal stabilization in a lot of these cards. But there's one interesting one. Coming in number 5 is Counterbalance. It's down at $1.56 to $24.59. Now, this has recently gone up in value due to the fact that a lot of folks thought either this was going to be banned in Legacy or else its counterpart, Sensei's Dividing Top, was going to be banned. When that didn't happen, the value went up over the last few weeks, and now it's just starting to stabilize. Number 4 is Scapeshift, down $2.42 to $40.80. Scapeshift always hangs around. This, again, is just normal stabilization. This is the type of deck that does really well, then it kind of disappears a little bit, then it comes back and does really well. It's always just going to hang around. Number 3 is Liliana of the Val, down $2.68 to $102.36. And this card is still very, very healthy. Don't let the small decrease bother you. I mean, it's still worth over $100, and this card will continue to go up in the future. Number 2 is Horizon Canopy, and this is down $3.21 to $76.49. This has lost a little ground over the last few weeks. This card was over $80, but this is nothing abnormal for this card. Usually it sits between $70 and $80 and just fluctuates between those prices. Coming in at number 1 is Tarmogoyf. Now, this is maybe the first time since I've been doing the Market Watch that 3 different copies of the card kind of would fall into the top 5. First, we have the Modern Masters 2015 version losing $1.84 to $134.99. Modern Masters version losing $3.17 to $141.79. And finally, Future Sight losing $5.03 to $165.43. So I think here's the deal with Tarmogoyf. Still sees tons of play in both Legacy and Modern. It will continue to. However, I don't think it sees the amount of play that it used to see. And for a very long time, I think this card was staying as high as it was on reputation alone and just the mystique of the card. People just wanted to own Tarmogoyf. Now, I think that's starting to settle down a little bit, and people are starting to realize, well, there are copies of Tarmogoyf out there, and it isn't seeing as much play as it used to see. And because of that, this card has definitely gotten a lot softer. Just a few weeks back, the Future Sight version was going for about $180. Not to mention, if you go back a number of months, it was an over $200 card. This card has seen actually some significant losses. Also, couple that with the fact that it has been reprinted twice. And Modern Masters 2015 is still out there at a very reasonable price in a lot of markets. Now, granted, a lot of folks don't really like that version because of some of the printing issues with that set. But really, if you want a Tarmogoyf, that's the cheapest way to go. So keep an eye on this card. I think it's going to continue to lose value for a little while. It will probably stop losing value and start gaining value when we get closer to Modern season where there's more Modern tournaments going on. Especially if this card gets another reprint and say a Modern Masters 3 that comes out within a year or two, then there's a good chance that this is going to continue to lose ground. All right, let's look at the top 5 Modern cards that have gained value this week. Coming in number 5 is Emrakul of the Aeon's Torn. This is the Modern Masters 2015 version. This is up $1.17 to $34.16. Now, this card is seeing tons of play in Modern in the Nahiri Jeskai deck. Also continues to see play in the Tron decks. And in Legacy, of course, it's a part of Sneak and Show. Coming in number 4 is Fortune Thief. This is up $1.41 to $2.50. I haven't really seen this played in Modern or anything like that, but it is a casual fan favorite card. It does see some play in Commander. Number 3, Amulet of Vigor. This one's up $2.18 to $9.15. Amulet's still a deck. It's not as popular as maybe it once was. Maybe it's become more of a fringe deck in Modern, but it's still hanging around for sure. Number 2 is Conflagrate. This is up $3.51 to $4. Now, the Modern Dredge deck is actually gaining a lot of momentum, and this is another strong sign of that. This is a key card in that deck, and I think this will continue to go up in value. Dredge is just becoming more and more popular. Number 1 is River of Tears. This is up $18.18 to $18.99. Now, we've seen this card going up over the last 3 weeks or so. This definitely has the feel of a buyout, or at least a lot of collectors looking at this card, and perhaps incorrectly comparing it to cards like Horizon Canopy or Grove of the Burn Willows. I think it's just gotten to the point that any of these Future Sight lands that were lower value, a lot of collectors are trying to pick these up, or folks are trying to corner the market on them. This does see a tad bit of play in Modern in the Fairies deck, but that's a very small, very fringe deck. Not really enough to warrant this type of jump or anything like that. So there's definitely a little bit of market manipulation going on with this card. All right, let's move on to Legacy. Now, Legacy has started to cool off a little bit as we get further away from Eternal Masters, but obviously reserve list cards are still very hot. There's still some buyouts out there. But you will notice a lot of these recent buyouts that spike the price, but they have to quickly reintroduce the cards back to the market because these cards cost so much that they do have to pick them up on credit. So they have a limited amount of time to sell them back so that they don't have to pay the interest. And you're going to see that more and more, I think, as we go forward, especially in the Legacy vintage markets. Now, one thing that didn't quite make the top 5 of the list, but I wanted to mention it, was Lion's Eye Diamond. That's actually back down to $140 to $160 right now, and this was a card that had a pretty prominent buyout just a few weeks ago, but obviously the person buying it out had to get those cards back to the market as quickly as possible. Coming in number 5 is Armageddon. Now, this is the unlimited version, and this is the only card you're going to see today on either list that's not on the reserve list. This is down $14.18 to $26.22, and I don't know, this card just sees a lot of crazy ups and downs. It's a really rough investment. Be very wary of this card. Don't know if it has anything to do perhaps with gameplay in the old school format, but for some reason this card just shifts all the time. Number 4 is Diamond Valley, down $36.74 to $178.48. Again, this was recently a target of a buyout. It's still a very rare, very collectible fan favorite card, but I think it's going to lose a little bit of ground. Coming in at number 3, speaking of fan favorite cards, Jizam Jijin, down $41.50 to $584.99. Now, this decrease is a little deceptive just due to the fact that this card has been seeing some crazy swings over the last week and a half or so. Obviously, there is some market manipulation here, but this card has actually gone up in value over the last few weeks as opposed to gone down in value like it appears to be here. At one point, about a week and a half ago, this card was going for $1,000 in certain places, so that's crazy. Obviously, I don't really think it's worth that at this point, but this is a card that does see a lot of play in the old school format, and it's a classic Magic card with classic Mark Teton art that really resonates with the identity of the game. So watch for this card over time, regardless of market manipulation, to continue to go up. Coming in number 2, we have Candelabra of Tawnos, down $61 to $499.99. This, of course, is another card that is very rare, very collectible. A lot of collectors will be interested in this card, but at the same time, when you get up to the $500-$600 price range, a fluctuation like this really is more or less normal stabilization. Speaking of normal stabilization, the Tabernacle of Pendrell Vale is down $139.50 to $1,300. Again, when a card has such a high price tag, it's not going to be sold as frequently. So this is just the difference between what the prices were at last week compared to what a particular card was priced at this week. Okay, let's look at the top 5 Legacy cards that have gained value this week. We'll start off with number 5, All Hallows Eve. It's up $6.86 to $62. And again, another fan favorite card here. It's got great art. It's got great flavor. How often do you see a sorcery that you put counters on? Very interesting. But overall, this is just one of those cards that I think will, over time, just continue to creep up. It's a rare card from the old days of Magic, from the Legends set. And it hasn't necessarily, I don't think, been a victim of a buyout or anything like that this week, but I think just a lot of collectors are interested in it. Number 4 is City of Traders, up 869 to 178.15. This card is the real deal. It's seeing play all over the place. Obviously, Legacy Eldrazi is probably the most popular, but this sees play in numerous different types of decks. I do think that even though this is going up in value quickly, it isn't necessarily due to a lot of market manipulation as much as it's due to gameplay. So if you don't have copies of this one and you need them, I hate to say it, but I think you may have to bite the bullet at the value that it's currently at. I think it's only going to get worse. Number 3 is Unlimited Bayou. It's gone up $12.91 to $253.65. The dual lands have been a little bit quieter the last couple weeks, but we do see a couple of them on the list this week. Coming in number 2 is Savannah. This is up $12.99 to $177.86. Again, this is the unlimited version, and this had a little bit of a hit last week where it went down a little bit, so this is just stabilizing this week. And finally, coming in number 1 is Nether Void, up $25.81 to $316.90. This does feel like a buyout has happened recently with this card, perhaps a little bit of market manipulation. It does see a tad bit of play in Legacy Pox decks, but again, that's kind of a fringe deck, so I don't really think that's causing this increase. I think it's just more or less this card has been identified as something that's unique and rare, and some folks are picking it up. All right, well, that's the market watch for this week. So I'm very excited to watch the tournament scene this week. And then as we get closer to the Pro Tour, I think there's going to be a lot of changes in the market. So keep an eye out the next couple weeks. Until then, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks as always for watching. This video, like all my videos, was made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Even a donation of $1 helps me to keep growing this community and creating better quality content for all of you. Check out our Patreon page for exclusive giveaways and future goals for the channel. If you haven't yet had a chance to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the MTG news, spoilers, set reviews, product openings, or finance videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.